The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
The conversations we have off air don't make it on air, but if they did, we probably wouldn't have a show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kickoff! After season special, not an official episode in the second season. Our second season will kick off with college football preview and NFL training camps / exhibition games. But for today and this particular episode, we are going to be covering the 2018 NFL Draft. I am your host. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, my co-host from day one, Brandon Biskobing.
Not going to do anything again?
We tried it in the first part of this. It didn't work, so I'm just not going with it.
Because you failed miserably.
I'm going to just leave that to the wrestling shows that we do.
Yep, sounds good.
You guys missed it last night. I called him the Shooter McGavin to my Happy Gilmore.
Ooh, nice.
I thought that was a quality reference. Anywho, the voice you just heard is Jason Teasley.
Yes, I'm back, filling in for the empty chair that's busy doing D3 football or something. I don't know. Hi, chair.
And the executive producer turned co-host, Erik Watkins.
With a stomach full of homemade curry chicken, now I'm just hungry for the draft.
So a little bit of a different format than what you may be used to tonight here on the Kickoff. We will have our usual debate and discussion and such, but obviously no stats to talk about tonight, no plays to talk about tonight. We are just going to preview the draft itself starting tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard, the best standard, on ESPN's The NFL Network, and simulcast from the NFL Network on Fox, which frankly is just a cheap ratings play for Fox, but it's smart.
Of course.
One minor thing. Aren't we on daylight saving time?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be 8 o'clock DST instead of EST?
It will be EDT.
So I don't know how that stuff works.
No one does.
Hold on, I'm getting clarification from the chair. Right? Okay. Yes, EDT. That's correct.
So what we're going to do tonight instead is we are going to give our two players who we feel will be drafted outside of the first round but could have the biggest impact in the future in the NFL, similar to what Kareem Hunt did last year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Those will be our booms. We will have two players each that we think will go in the first round who will do absolutely nothing. Those will be our busts. We will have a top 5 overall at the end of the show. And then we will also talk about what specifically we want our teams to do. For Erik, it'll be Jacksonville. For myself, it'll be Buffalo. And then Brandon and Jason can debate it out over the football giants.
Go Big Blue.
Yes, go Big Blue. You guys are going to get...
What's that, man?
Go not to the playoffs is what you guys did last year.
Yes.
Richmond Spiders? Okay, got you.
I feel like an Arizona Rattlers reference would have been funnier.
No.
Hold on. Women's D3 college basketball. Is that what you got?
Okay, let's not run it into the ground.
Hey, man. I'm just trying to incorporate my person.
So we're going to start with the booms here. And since Jason's done the majority of the talking, I figure why stop now? Go ahead and give us your first boom selection, Jason.
Okay, with the boom shakalaka pick from Ginger Damas, I'm going to go Ronald Jones II out of USC, drawing high comparisons to Jamal Charles. He was actually hampered during the combine with a kind of tender pulled hamstring, didn't run what he was quite able to run. So a lot of teams kind of knocked him for the slow 40 time. But he's actually my running back 4 out of the draft class. He's very elusive out of the backfield. He has the ability to wait on his blockers and hit the holes with explosiveness. I don't want any references, Erik. Also, he's got great hands, and he has the ability to move so fluidly with his cut and cut on a dime. So I think that he's going to slip down a little bit in this draft to early second round, maybe mid-second. But whoever gets him is getting an elite running back with a very bright future.
Does it bother you at all that he's under 6 feet tall?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it adds to the elusiveness. You can't tackle what you can't see behind a 6'6" lineman.
I mean, that's a fair assessment. One of the things that and I'm using the Pro Football Weekly NFL Draft Guide as my what's the word I'm looking
Primer?
for here?
Guideline?
Yes, we'll use guideline. I was going to go with syllabus. That was the word I was looking for. In order to kind of get myself more in tune with each of the players in this draft here. And one of the things that it mentions here is the fact that he's only 5'11" and 198 pounds, which means he's probably not going to get a whole lot bigger. At the same time, I say that. Wasn't Barry Sanders only like 5'7",
Yeah,
5'8"?
Some of the best running backs in history have been smaller guys because they have that elusiveness that they can just, sneak their way through an offensive line. I mean, I remember seeing a picture in, one of my, football guides back in the day that had, a picture with Barry Sanders, next to a bunch of his linemen, and they were, a full foot taller than him.
And, Barry Sanders was also mistaken for a 7th grader quite often, too, in the Detroit area.
I mean, Jason and I both know a very small, elusive running back from back in the day with the Giants, Ahmad Bradshaw.
Out of Marshall University here in Huntington, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
He'll steal your PlayStation. Let him. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Brandon, you're up next. Who's your first boom?
My boom is James Washington, wide receiver at Oklahoma State. He led the NCAA in receiving yards last year. Yes, it was in the pass-heavy and super high-scoring Big 12, and he had a great quarterback to throw to him. But as long as he gets on the right team, you can basically put him in anywhere outside in the slot. He can run inside, outside. He can pretty much do whatever you ask him to do. And I think he can definitely be not sure if he'll be a top wide receiver in the league, but I think he can definitely be a serviceable and a very productive wide receiver in the league.
What I like about Washington is he has great ball tracking abilities, especially on the deep ball. He is able to contort his body and track the ball downfield. So if he gets a strong arm quarterback, he could be a serious downfield threat.
Yeah, you put him on Atlanta, he could be a great complement to Julio Jones.
So what you're saying is, they already have a compliment to Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu.
I know.
So what you're saying is he's basically the anti-Zay Jones up in Buffalo right now, and that if you put a ball near him, he's probably going to grab it.
Yes, he has strong hands as well. He runs a 4.54 at the combine. He creates great separation with his body, so he's able to make those difficult catches as long as he's got a quarterback that's willing to throw the ball.
Erik, you're up. Who's your first boom pick?
Now, my first boom pick, he's very solid familial lineage, coming from a rather unique conference, and basically you could say that he spent a season or so protecting something of a head case. One Orlando Brown, left tackle out of Oklahoma. Now, Did he have, like, say, the best combine? Well, not entirely, but you figure a guy, 6'8", 345, decent hand size, and let's face it, imagine what Baker Mayfield would have been without someone getting this kind of protection. He needs to do a little bit better blocking downfield, kind of get grip with defenders, but I think with the right team, which is half of the teams in the league, which half of the quarterbacks in the league are going to need a lot of protection, very valuable, and even outside of that first round, this could be one of those little steals.
Well, we kind of talked about this on the original version of this episode that got lost to the sands of time with regards to Orlando Brown, and that maybe a team like Cleveland might want to consider going after him in order to help replace the hit that they're taking from losing Joe Thomas to retirement. Do you think that that's something that they might want to consider, especially if the rumor's circulating that Cleveland may go after Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall?
Yeah, if they get Mayfield number 1, or even to give Tyrod Taylor some time in the pocket and be able to develop as more of a pocket passer, this is a guy that you could use full stop.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure me and Brandon could agree on this is a guy we wouldn't mind having on our offensive line with all the offensive line help that we need.
Not at all.
Let's just state for the record, I feel there's no turning Tyrod Taylor into a pocket passer. I dealt with that for 4 years up in Buffalo.
I'm not saying it's going to be foolproof. I'm just saying develop a teeny bit more. Give him throw him maybe a little bit of a bone in that area.
Okay, so we talked about my first pick a lot last year because of the fact that he played for the school that he played for, and not to mention the disability that he has as well. My first boom pick is going to be the man who impressed everyone at the NFL Draft Combine, and that would be Shaquem Griffin out of Central Florida. 6 foot even, 222 pounds linebacker. A lot of people are going to make the comparisons to Jason Pierre-Paul because of the hand situation. However, Griffin, in my opinion, is faster. Griffin, in my opinion, has a better head on his shoulders, and Griffin has way more desire than JPP has.
Well, hold on. You will not disperse the name of a beloved New York Giant on any podcast I'm on. I will give you 8 fingers to take that back.
He'll flip them off Austin shotgun style. Anywho.
Well, I mean, this was a boom pick, wasn't it? So that kind of makes sense.
Yes.
Oh, boo. That's awful. Do you guys think that Shaquem Griffin has a future in the NFL? I honestly do. I think that whatever team he lands with, he's got the kind of hustle and he's got the kind of heart that's going to help him stay.
Oh, definitely.
I think I don't think he has superstar potential, but I think he's got a very high-end contributor. I think he has the work ethic by far of any top notch of anybody in this class. His work ethic cannot be disputed. He has a good heart. He's willing to lay everything out there to prove all the doubters wrong, me included, like I said, But I think that I don't think he's going to be a superstar in the NFL, but I think he's going to be a solid hand.
And not to mention, like in baseball, there's a saying about you need clubhouse guys. Guys who, with their energy, and as you mentioned, your hustle, your heart, your work ethic, just their presence around the rest of the team helps everybody out. I think there's a few teams that would really take advantage of that. I mean, I know of one who just had a linebacker retire. I wouldn't mind, maybe not as a replacement for him, not going that far, but maybe a cheeky little backup, kind of get into the linebacking rotation, keep the defense afloat. I'm just saying.
Just call it what it is. You want him in Jacksonville, Erik.
Well, I mean in so many words, if we're going heck.
I could see him in somewhere like Jacksonville, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Somewhere that's going to have a solid, that is known for a solid defense, and they can actually build around just his, not necessarily his play, but his character.
Mm-hmm.
Not just his character, but he also has an amazing potential for big plays too. Having him around as a big play specialist in a defense that's already solid, such as a Buffalo, even though Buffalo lost Preston Brown in this offseason, would be a very wise decision. I definitely agree with that. I could totally see him in Buffalo. I would not be opposed to it at all. All right, Jason, who's your second boom pick for this NFL draft?
All right, since my original second boom pick was stolen,
Thanks, Brandon.
I'm going to go with, I told you guys, I had like 5 guys that I wanted to pick from. So I went to the third guy that I had Washington edging out, and that's going to be Christian Kirk out of Texas A&M. So, he's getting a lot of comparison to Fair Cooper. He's a PPR machine. Strong hands. He runs nice intermediate routes. Big play possibility. He's got great core strength. Downside, he's 5'11", which in the NFL you can succeed at 5'11". Highly unlikely, but we've seen it happen before. Also, he's got it between the ears. He's quick to learn. Quick on learning these routes. He shined in Combine and Pro Day. But, the only other downsides I see is the fact that he needs to make better decision-making, because I look for him to slide down and be a team's punt returner. So he's going to have issues with that because his decision-making kind of lacks from time to time. He's kind of erratic. And he's quick, not fast, meaning he has that explosiveness, but he's not going to flat out run somebody.
Something that I want to point out here, you mentioned one of the things I was going to say in the fact that he's also a kick returner, which I think helps his stock. Does it at all worry you that he was down so significantly from receptions in his junior year as compared to his sophomore year? Looking at the stats from the draft guide that I have in front of me here, 83 catches for 928 yards on his sophomore season, 58 catches for 730 on his junior year.
Yeah, I think his junior year he might have been battling some injuries, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, to me, he reminds me of a Wes Welker type receiver. Somebody that's going to put up huge fantasy numbers, huge receptions. He's not always going to score you a lot of yards, but he's going to make the plays when needed.
Anybody else have any thoughts on Christian Kirk?
It's really kind of a benefit with the kick returner, because we've seen more and more how if you start as a kick and punt returner, if he works on that decision making, as you saw with that's key, if he sticks around the team year 2, year 3 at the latest, you see him ingratiating more and more in the offense. So I think with that versatility, that's going to help, because you have to understand not just injuries, but what percentage of snaps was he at receiver? What percentage was he mainly just doing kick returns?
Brandon, anything?
Not really, no. I think they pretty much covered it.
All right, that's going to take us to Eric's second boom pick. Erik?
All right, now hear me out. Running backs. Miami running backs. Miami running backs coming off of a potentially bad injury. Yes, there have been questions in the past. However, there is one man had a great career, hampered by an ACL tear. That man is the name Frank Gore. Does that ring any bells to anybody?
Nope, never heard of him.
There's another Miami running back who came off an ACL tear to have a pretty decent NFL career as well.
Hello, Willis McGahee.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. So you see where I'm going with this. Everybody's looking at Mark Walton. Everybody's seeing what he did. Everybody's looking at that injury. But, I mean, think about it. Even if you're putting him in a situation with the running back by committee, a third round, maybe even early day 2, another one of those cheeky little gems, we kind of know what we're doing a little bit down at the U. We've set some precedent. We do just fine.
I'm not sure I buy it. And the reason I say that is because, granted, Walton averaged 100 yards a game in the 4 games that he did play. 107 to be specific. But it's going to depend on what kind of offensive line Walton finds himself behind.
Mm-hmm.
At Miami, he had one of the biggest offensive lines in college football.
Agreed.
He's going to have a large group of linemen in order to help him be that elusive evader, much the same way we talked about Ronald Jones with earlier. Because much like Jones himself, Mark Walton's only 5'8".
Well, that's the case with any sort of speed, elusive running back. You need those big linemen. You need to have a good offensive line in front of you in order to be successful.
For me, Walton's going to depend on the system that he lands in as to what kind of success he's going to have in the NFL.
And I agree with you in that regard, because I'm not saying he's going to be a solid every down back. Even my homerism won't let me go that far. But again, if you put him as part of something of a two-headed monster, you could get a lot of success. He doesn't need a lot of carries per game, but I don't know, 8 to 10-ish, 12 at the most if you're feeling lucky. You could get some solid production out of those carries.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 7.6 a game, 7.6 yards a game. But, I mean, his size is going to hamper him. I think that he's going to go mid-third round, the team, and I think he's going to have to sit and learn. But I think he's got that potential to, given the chance, he could do some damage and be a solid running back in the NFL. But I think it's going to take a key injury or something for him to get that opportunity.
Brandon, who's your second boom pick?
My second boom pick is Joe Ostman, defensive end from Central Michigan. He's a little undersized, but he led the NCAA in sacks last year. Granted, they were playing against MAC opponents for most of the year, so not as big of a competition standing for them. But I mean, we've seen guys from mid-major schools and even from D2 schools, that a lot of people have overlooked, and they suddenly, really show their worth in the NFL. I mean, the biggest one I would say is Wentz, coming from North Dakota. But he's got that elusiveness. He's got a lot of swim moves. Very good hands. And a lot of moves off of the line, very elusive off of the line to get to the quarterback. So I think he could be very successful in the right system and with the right defensive line coordinator and defensive line coach to kind of teach him more moves, teach him, the best way to get around these bigger NFL offensive linemen. When I was looking some of his combine stuff up, someone compared him to Rob Ninkovich from New England, and he had a very successful career in New England.
I honestly can't say I watched a whole lot of MAC football, so I don't really have anything to comment one way or another here.
That would probably be something from.
Yeah, I don't have any insight either on him.
All right, Erik, so you're not the only one who's a little bit of a homer on this show, in case people haven't noticed.
Thankfully.
Erik loves his Miami Hurricanes just as much as I love my Florida Gators. Historically, Florida Gator wide receivers have not done well in the NFL. It's kind of a drastic understatement. That being said, there is one in this year's draft class who I feel has something to prove after the scandal that came out last year and him having to sit out for the entire season. If his head is on right and he gets the opportunity to play, my second boom pick is Antonio Callaway, wide receiver, Florida.
I think that's a solid third-round pick for someone that could be a surprise like Juju was this year for the Steelers. Kind of under the radar. That could just be sneaky good. I mean, he's got solid physical abilities. He's got a nice frame. So I think he could actually be a steal for somebody in about the third round.
He was one of the best receivers in the SEC in his sophomore season, but then obviously he was suspended for all of his junior season due to the whole credit card fraud scandal that came out. There are other off-the-field concerns with him as well, as a since dismissed sexual assault charge came up during the course of last season as well.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to hamper him in terms of the draft is a lot of teams are not going to be willing to take that chance, so he's definitely going to drop pretty far. Could he be successful if he gets those things under control? Yeah, I definitely think so, but, that's a big if.
Well, I mean...
Because we've all seen what has happened with other Florida wide receiver core people.
Those of that ilk, yes. And I really think that because of that, and I would hope you had a lot of representatives during when they were able to interview him, not cut to the bone, but kind of dig deep and seeing where he's at mentally, because if he's in a stable organization on the mental side of things, he could truly, truly blossom. Part of me hates to admit that, but it's the truth. If you get past that, then again, you've got fantastic talent, someone that you can ingratiate into your receiving core just fine. And again, another Juju Smith-Schuster, yeah, I'll make that comparison.
Even then, though, I think it's a big risk because, I don't want to say his name outright, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm referencing to in terms of the Florida wide receiving core, not fully wide receiver, but, you get what I'm saying. And he was on probably the most stable, most, focused and most, controlled team in the NFL, and he still fell. So I think a lot of teams, especially after that, are going to be very wary of guys with history.
Fair point.
But you can't hide talent. Talent trumps.
I agree with that, but a lot of certain teams
talent issues.
You're gonna have a lot of teams thinking, if I can get someone of comparable talent, do I really want to take the risk with this guy?
To that I say there was another guy in last year's draft that had those potential off the field issues as well. And look at what Ezekiel Elliott did on the field for Dallas.
Oh yes, I agree.
2 years ago.
2 years, yes.
But he paid for his off-the-field issues last season. But it's a risk-reward thing with Antonio Callaway, and I'll be the first person to admit it. Mm-hmm. He has, in my opinion, he has potential to be the best wide receiver in this draft. But the question to me is, where is his head?
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the issue, and it's getting worse and worse every year because there's more and more players that either A, have off-the-field issues in terms of, that sort of thing like Callaway, or they have other things going on, like a Tim Tebow, where it just brings too much attention to a team, and some teams that aren't ready to handle it, some of the smaller market teams, just are not willing to take that risk and basically have their whole training camp and their whole season become a giant circus.
I'll agree with that to an extent. I think that you're going to know going into it that you're taking a risk by drafting Callaway his off-the-field issues last year.
Exactly. So it's going to take a very specific team that has very good control over everything.
I almost hate to say these three words together, but New England Patriots.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he'd go to New England.
I think Belichick is going to stay far, far away.
I mean, I could see him somewhere, Arizona, maybe.
If we're talking places for arrest records and stuff, he'd fit in perfectly in San Francisco or Oakland.
Or Philly.
Honestly, probably the most stable, just in terms of, your quarterback, your head coach, the system, all of this. The place that I could potentially see him landing, Green Bay.
Well, see, I was thinking same division, but I was thinking the Lions. Maybe put him in Detroit and...
Well, but it's Detroit.
Oh yeah,
I mean, the city's going to hell. So
why not expedite the process?
Yeah, I mean,
thanks. I'm sure Antonio would appreciate that. All right, so in addition to coming up with 2 boom picks, we also came up with 2 bust picks. There is one that at least 3 of us on this panel agree with, so therefore I'm not going to make all of us change our prediction here. I know I speak for myself, I know I speak for Brandon, and I believe I speak for Jason as well when I say that one of our bust picks is Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Jason had pretty much the exact same line of thinking along this. He reminds us too much of Johnny Manziel to take the chance on. A guy who is completely up his own ass, a guy who completely is buying all the hype that he's seeing about him, and the guy who does not have the correct stuff between his ears in order to be able to finalize what is going to be needed to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Jason, why don't you go ahead and expand upon that, and then Brandon will go to you as well.
I mean, I think he has all the physical check. He checks all the boxes physically. It's his mental capacity that I don't think. You've seen it this year in a lot of games. His antics on the field overshadowed his performance on the field. And I think taking that step up into the NFL, you're playing with grown men, and you're going to come across defensive players that don't take too kindly like you shaking your nuts at them, and you're going to pay for it. And you're not going to have, if you don't respect your O-line, they're going to let these defensive linemen just unload on you. So I think his mental capacity needs to come up tremendously, or he's going to be covered by an empty chair in the CFL.
Oh, don't go disrespecting the CFL like that. Come on now. They have some standards here, okay? Especially in the next couple of years when they get a team out in the Maritimes.
I'm not even touching that. Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with what both of you have been saying. I do give him a little bit more credit than you guys do, because I do think he has a little bit more of a head on his shoulders than Johnny Manziel did. But again, honestly, the best case scenario for him in terms of being successful in the NFL, and the only way that I think he is successful, is if these character flaws, these issues that we're seeing, cause him to start dropping and maybe land on, it probably wouldn't be the Giants. I don't think they'd pick him at number 2 overall. But maybe landing somewhere where they're a little more stable both on the field and off the field. But if he lands, a lot of people are projecting him to land third. I think it's third where the Jets are, either third or fourth.
Yeah, the Jets traded up to 3.
Okay, yes. So a lot of people are taking him at 3 with the Jets. And, if he lands with the Jets, he's screwed. Because not only do you have just a horrible mess of an organization with the Jets, but also you have the added pressure of playing in New York, all of the media there. It's just going to get to him so quickly that, and they're not going to win. The organization is a mess. So, if he lands with the Jets, he's done.
What about him landing in somewhere like New Orleans and being the successor to Breeze?
That's one scenario where I could see him actually doing well, because he'd have to sit on the bench for a couple of years, listen and learn from Breeze. The only way it wouldn't work is, like you guys were talking about, if that ego of his causes him to get frustrated at not starting and, start going off on people, yada, yada, yada. Basically what happened to Manziel. So, that's the best case scenario, but that's only if he's willing to actually sit down and learn.
That is not best case scenario, and here's why. Putting him in a city like New Orleans is just as dangerous as putting him in a city like New York.
But at least in New Orleans, he wouldn't be starting right away. He wouldn't be the spotlight. Matter.
That would make him all the more likely to go out and engage in the nightlife and then the adult culture down there and find himself as the headlines that he should not be finding himself as.
I'll give you that. I will give you that.
I think that his. The best case scenario could probably be. Honestly, the best case scenario might actually be him going to somewhere like Cincinnati.
Cleveland.
The problem with Cleveland, though, the problem with Cleveland, though, is just like with Manziel, he's going to get frustrated with the losing. He's going to get frustrated with, the lack of success with that team, and that's what's going to cause the problems like they had with Manziel.
And he's going to have in Cleveland, not only you're going to have a microscope and spotlight on him, you're also going to have it on someone like Josh Gordon. So that's going to draw things. And you got a very volatile, outspoken receiver like Gordon, and they acquired Landry. If those two are not getting the balls that they see that they are fit to get, they're going to be making sound clips, which is going to cause turmoil inside the team.
Well, Landry's a more outspoken one. With Gordon, he's just going to be seeing someone like Baker Mayfield as a potential party buddy. So let's get to that. But with Mayfield, the comparisons to Manziel are apt, but with Manziel, I noticed two things. He did not take the game seriously. Mm-hmm. It was just what the game could give him. And he really didn't take himself seriously. Mayfield does a slightly better job at taking more of the game seriously, even with his antics. But his worst thing is, if he still can't get to the point to where he'll take himself seriously, then no matter where you go, it's going to be problems. Because if he's in a stable organization, he's going to then seek nightlife. If he's in a place to where he's bored, then he's going to just go somewhere for fun. That would be for Cleveland. If Arizona, he'd hop right over to Vegas, whatever. So he's got the potential, and he doesn't really need to hit the weight room like Manziel did because his physicals are phenomenal, but There's way too many question marks. And personally, Cleveland would be an even quicker death sentence than it was for Manziel.
I'm
Well,
not
where
sure
do
I'd
you
go
send
that
him?
far, but
Where do you send him that he quote unquote becomes safe? Pittsburgh to back up Big Ben?
Potentially.
Actually, I could totally see Pittsburgh working out for him there because Ben's
Yeah.
got one or two good seasons left, and Landry Jones is not the answer in Pittsburgh as their quarterback of the future. Mayfield having a couple of seasons to learn under Roethlisberger and then getting to know the patterns of people like Antonio Brown, like Juju Smith-Schuster, and having a running back like Le'Veon Bell to work with there would do wonders to help Mayfield make a solid transition into the NFL. I could totally see Pittsburgh working, but Pittsburgh won't trade up to get him.
Pittsburgh won't trade up to get him, and that's the downside because even just learning on the field, knowing those patterns and being a more than competent replacement for Landry Jones, Roethlisberger, if he ever wanted to be a mentor, because we all know what he was like early in his career.
Greatest.
Yeah, Mayfield would be the perfect guy to take under his wing.
But like,
I'm sorry, your microphone cut out for a few seconds there, Jason. Did you say something?
Hey, you can't have therapy.
You can't spell
I
therapist without something?
yes, but I mean,
it's as long as you yell surprise first, it's legal, right? Big Ben?
but I mean, I was talking about that earlier with how, because of these off the field issues, he may drop. That would be the perfect scenario, probably, is Pittsburgh, because you're sitting behind a very good quarterback who has his off the field issues, who has learned from them. Pittsburgh isn't exactly a party town, so, there's no... What?
No, they're not.
Yeah.
That would...
And you got a hard-nosed coach.
Exactly. Yeah. So that would probably be the perfect scenario for him. That is one place that he would be able to succeed easily.
I could get on board with that.
Yeah.
And the benefit with the Pittsburgh over Cleveland is it's not just the fact that neither of those places are party towns. Pittsburgh isn't anywhere near as depressing as Cleveland is.
Well, Pittsburgh, they'd actually be winning.
Hey.
Well, if anybody wants to know how great Cleveland is, look up Cleveland Tourism Bureau on YouTube and see the great tourism videos that they was able to put together for Cleveland.
Oh God, I could only imagine.
First of all, I'm going to state for the record that as somebody who lives about an hour away from Cleveland, it's actually not that bad.
I think Cleveland's a nice city. I've been there quite a few times watching games. They've got a great fan base. Problem they don't win.
Yeah.
And with somebody with the ego of him, winning might be more important than being what a quarterback's supposed to be on a team, and that's a leader.
Yeah, he's never been. I mean, I don't know about his high school days, but in college, he was never at Oklahoma was always good when he was there. He never had a down year.
Well, not to mention Oklahoma was his dream. He wanted to play there. He started his career at Texas Tech. It was actually decent, but it's not where he wanted to be. And he used his sway and whatever to leave and transfer and make that happen. How is he going to react when knowing that he doesn't have that sway?
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that this is a Cleveland team that will be a lot better, though, because they have a pair of solid running backs now. They have a wide receiving core that isn't employees out of the local practice.
Who's the other running back?
They have Frank Gore. They have Carlos Hyde.
Cleveland doesn't have Frank Gore.
Or not Frank Gore. They have Carlos Hyde, and they have, what's his name?
Duke Johnson?
Yeah, Duke Johnson Jr., thank you.
I mean, 4-12 is better, but it's still not good. And for a player like Mayfield who's used to winning, he's still not going to like it.
I mean, you can only go up from winless. I mean,
yeah, really.
They can't get no worse.
No.
All right, let's go ahead and move on here. Erik, you were kind of the dissenting opinion here in that you didn't think that Mayfield was going to be a complete bust. So do you have to?
Well, I really do. And one of them, a first-round guy, another one who in mock drafts was projected to go to Cleveland #1 himself. Tall guy, kind of in Western school. Where's the number 17? Not such a good precedent if you're Josh Allen. Because, to me at the very least, I'm seeing another version of Brock Osweiler. Yeah, maybe if you put him in the right system as a backup, you can hone his talent. But you're looking at possibly a good couple of years. And I don't think teams are that patient.
God. And I really liked you, Erik. I really did. But you're telling me that my number one quarterback prediction in this draft is going to be a bust.
Hey.
Hold on. I got to consult. Do you agree? My thoughts exactly.
Oh, I'm just saying.
You're getting the silent treatment right now.
The viewer Naughty is speaking here. Everybody is saying, "Hey, look at what happened the last time we tried something like this." And Wyoming, great for rodeos and mountain scenery. Football, it's another story. Can I move on here?
Allow me to check in here because I'm actually on Jason's side of this here. And there were a couple different articles posted on the Bills USA Today page talking about how Buffalo has an interest in Josh Allen. And the reason for that was posted was because they feel like Allen having the opportunity to throw in the wind conditions in Wyoming would make him the perfect quarterback to fit in Buffalo because of the conditions that the Bills Stadium sometimes undergoes up at Ralph Wilson there. Viewing him as almost a modern-day Jim Kelly.
I remember when you mentioned this in the chat, and you also remember what I said as a rebuttal?
They thought that about Drew Bledsoe, but here's the thing with Bledsoe. Bledsoe had already been in the NFL for almost a decade by the time he came to Buffalo. Allen is somebody that the coaching staff in Buffalo can work with, including, assuming he's well enough to do so by that time, Kelly himself.
I think Josh Allen has all the physical attributes to be a successful NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and another team that is looking at him as a potential quarterback to pick up in the first round because of both the wind conditions and because of the altitude, the elevation, is Denver.
I would love to see him go to Denver.
Oh. Buffalo, I can understand because, for the most part, again, Buffalo is a patient franchise. So now another tall quarterback throws in some less than ideal conditions, wearing number 17 and in Denver. Are we really gonna go lather, rinse, repeat here? I'll give you Buffalo. I'll give you Buffalo. Denver, no. No.
Hey, Elway could very easily see a lot of himself in Allen.
I mean, you do have one of the top quarterbacks running the franchise that could probably offer him some good QB drills.
Yeah, we still saw the likes of Trevor Siemian from Northwestern up there.
I'm just going to put it out there that this is the franchise that originally thought Jay Cutler was competent.
True. Very true.
I'm just saying.
He had a nice mustache.
he does have a strong mustache. I will say that much.
Okay.
Pretty sure he has a beard as well, but that's a completely different conversation. Anywho. All right, Erik, who's your other bust?
Well, my other bust, not as heralded, same state as Baker Mayfield, but I think he's going to be more of a bust because he's more of a victim of the system and of where he comes from. Now, he's projected more late second round guy, not a first round guy, but still bust territory. Mason Rudolph of Oklahoma State.
Doesn't count.
Nope.
Doesn't count.
I get maybe somewhere he could be a formidable backup, kind of as that journeyman role, but if anybody's really taking him as a development, say, plan for the future, that's really not going to work.
This is where my heart lies.
Jason,
my heart lies with him wanting to become Eli's successor.
I was just going to say that exact same thing. I was just going to say I'd be perfectly fine with the Giants taking him and letting him sit behind Eli for a year or two.
Exactly. I love Mason Rudolph. I think that he is one of the super sleepers of this draft in the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
You got all the hype at the top, and then he trickles down, and I think he's going to be I would love the fact if Gettleman was able to snatch somebody like Rudolph in the second or third round.
Yeah, take Barkley number 2, and then let Rudolph drop to you in the second round.
I would be thrilled to have that draft class.
All right, let's. I'm going to go ahead and let you continue here, Jason. You vehemently disagreed with the Mason Rudolph thing. I will say real quick about Mason Rudolph. I kind of agree with Erik to an extent in that I think Mason is a product of the conference. He played in a conference where quarterbacks having big games was a necessity, not an anomaly. I don't know if that success will carry over to the National Football League. I think he will be a serviceable NFL quarterback. I do not think he'll be a star.
But I mean, think about it. If what you just said right there, quarterback success was a necessity in order to be good in the Big 12, just period. Whereas in the NFL, you don't need to be on point every game, so the pressure is taken off a little bit, which will allow him to be even better than he already is.
I disagree with that statement because the quality of opposition he will be facing in the NFL will be significantly greater. He's not going to be taking on some beast scrubs from Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to go against a very popular opinion of a lot of NFL people that study the game a lot more than I do for my next bust. I'm probably going to upset you guys.
I remember us talking about this in the kickoff thread. I know where you're going with this, and while I'm not upset about it, I don't agree.
My second bust is Josh Rosen. I think he is the most overhyped quarterback. And I was so heartbroken when all these mock drafts came out saying Rosen to the Giants. Reason why I don't like Rosen. One, he looks goofy as hell. We'll get that out of the way. I mean, God, I didn't think anybody could make an Eli face better than Eli. Then I seen Rosen. But, I mean, he has a lot of durability concerns dating all the way back to his high school days. He's very injury prone. His pocket delivery, he's so lax in the pocket. I guess maybe it's the LA Sun that just has him just so calm and relaxed in the pocket. But he takes way too much time in the pocket. I mean, it's just too casual. And he refuses to make the easy throws at times. He's a gunslinger. Reminds me of a lot of Favre. Yes. I committed the holy sin, but only as a gunslinger at all. Rosen wants to make the big plays, but he won't take the plays that are there. He'll force a lot of balls that don't need to be thrown when he can throw something simple underneath and get positive yardage. He wants to try to make the big Sports Center play. And I think that's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. We'll go on to another quarterback that I think that is being undervalued that I would love to see in Buffalo when we go to our five favorite people from the draft. But I think Rosen's going to be a huge bust.
I hate to say it, but those words about trying to make the big play and as a result getting beaten for it reminds me a lot of another quarterback who's currently on the Giants.
Hey, you don't besmirch the name of Eli Manning.
I'm just saying. Hey, I'm an Eli fan too.
Don't you guys have Davis Webb as your quarterback of the future?
No. Just no.
He's on the roster. We have him.
I mean, think about it. They went to Geno Smith before Davis Webb.
Yeah,
exactly what I was getting there. I was getting ready to say the exact same thing, Erik.
Right,
if you can't, and I'm a West Virginia guy. Geno was my boy at West Virginia. If you can't beat Geno Smith out, even with his broken jaw or whatever he gets in the locker rooms.
Yeah, you can beat him out if you're punching him, sure.
Kate and Paulie.
Geno got beat by a teammate that wasn't a quarterback more than he did by David Webb.
Davis.
But I will say, I get what you're saying there, Jason, but I think in the right system with the right guys teaching him, I think he could be a good quarterback. If they did decide, I don't think they will, but if the Giants did decide to draft him at number 2, I think he would learn very quickly I think he would be a serviceable quarterback. Would he be a top of the line quarterback? No, but I think he would be, I think he could be good, especially if Eli truly took him under his wing and taught him, how to be a good NFL quarterback.
I mean, really, if they take him, we would have the ugliest quarterback duo in the NFL.
Well, in fairness, last year you guys had the ugliest and stupidest head coach, so.
He kind of looks like if Sloth had a baby from the Goonies.
Why couldn't McAdoo have gotten taken as a head coach by an NFL team?
I wish somebody would have.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have took him
better.
All right, but that's my bust. I'm pretty sure you guys disagree with it heavily, but I'm sticking to my gun. And we'll come back in 3 years and let Ginger Thomas bask in the glory of being right yet again.
We'll talk more about Josh Rosen a little bit later on in the show is all I'm going to say to that. Brandon, who's your second bust?
My second bust is, unfortunately, you guys weren't allowing me to just simply say whoever the Browns were going to take in the number 1 overall pick. But so since everyone's projecting him to get taken by the Browns number 1 overall, I'm going to say Sam Darnold. I just don't think that, it's hard being a top quarterback going into the league because you're getting drafted by the worst teams in the league, so you're going to have those issues. For every Carson Wentz Wentz wasn't taken high, but for every Andrew...
I think Brandon, you there?
Yeah.
You
Can you hear me?
on us.
Yeah, your mic cut out. Try that again. For every Carson...
Well, Carson wasn't taken in the first round.
Well, I was going to say, I think you were about to say for every Carson Wentz, who actually did go number 2 overall.
Oh, he did go number 2 overall. You're right. For every Carson Wentz who, got taken at the top of the draft and was successful, there's, 100 RG3s, the list goes on and on.
Leafs.
What?
Ryan Leafs.
Exactly. Ryan Leafs, Jamarcus Russells, the list goes on and on. So
Ryan Leaf is the name I always go to when I talk quarterback busts in the NFL.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be a lot closer to Ryan Leaf than he will be to Carson Wentz. Especially if he goes to the Browns. I know Harry is very high on the Browns this year because they got a lot of picks, or they got a lot of pickups in free agency, but it's still the Browns. They'll still find a way to screw it up. They still don't have much of an offensive line. He's still going to get murdered out there.
Okay, you make this sound like I'm saying the Browns are going to be a playoff team this year or something. They're not. I'm not saying they are. But there's nowhere to go but up from where they were last year.
Well, obviously, because they went winless.
And for the record, Sam Darnold, in my opinion, is actually going to be a serviceable NFL quarterback.
Same here. I think he's got a lot of potential. I would choose Rosen over Darnold because I still say that Darnold has that little bit more rawness, but that can be honed.
Well, you could be wrong, but that's okay.
The issue for me with Darnold is the fact that he's turnover prone. Badly turnover prone.
And that's going to hurt the Browns a lot.
My problem with him is his delivery. He has that long looping delivery. Reminds me of a local quarterback here that had a serviceable NFL career, Byron Leftwich. Big, long, looping throwing motion.
The former Jacksonville Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then went to Pittsburgh and got a Super Bowl ring, like a lot of Jaguars do.
And I think he's got a sandwich shop. I think he's got a sandwich shop here in Huntington. I don't know.
Eric's not bitter at all.
Not in the slightest. Nah.
You know what? In keeping with the theme of picking quarterbacks as our second bust as well, I'm seeing a lot of mock drafts that have him coming to Buffalo at 21 or 22 if Buffalo doesn't trade up. Or not at 21, at 22, because we traded the 21 pick to Cincinnati to move up to 12. I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying he goes to Buffalo at 22 if Buffalo doesn't trade up in order to take a run at Josh Allen. I want absolutely no part of Lamar Jackson out of Louisville.
Oh, my God. How can you break my heart? This is one of the quarterbacks I'm going to talk about later on in my top 5 picks of the draft.
See, he knows what's up with Lamar Jackson. He gets it.
I don't see it. I don't think he wasn't a credible Heisman winner. He wasn't a credible performer in the bowl game after his Heisman win when they got absolutely shell-shocked by LSU. He had granted similar numbers last year in his senior campaign with Louisville, but the team did nothing near as well in regards to its record or its on-field performance.
I disagree with you here, man. I mean, I'll even say, well, I hope he doesn't go, because if he does, me and Brandon talked about this. If he lands in New England, the dynasty continues, because they can
Don't you dare put that into the universe. No.
It's out there, dude. New England has already been out on the record as saying they would love to have the opportunity to draft him. I like him. I think he has a lot of same qualities as Deshaun Watson did coming out. But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I see the quims that you have. I'm totally on board with some of those. But I'm pretty sure, because I was one of them, said the same thing about Watson coming out. Watson lit it up.
I think, but the difference is I think Watson has a better arm and he's more mobile.
He also has, which, I mean, we're talking hypothetically. Look who Watson was throwing to. I mean, can you name a top wide receiver that's been in Louisville?
No, you have a point.
Hold on. I'm going to consult our college football expert. Nope, he has nothing either. But I mean, Watson had a nice receiving core to help him. Mm-hmm. Not saying that. I mean, I was down on Watson. I'll fully admit that. Lamar Jackson, I've seen him in person when he played here at Marshall. I'm on board with him. I think he's going to be. I want to segue this. I think he's going to be one of the steals of the draft. Whoever lands him, and they can build around him. He's got to go to the right system, though. He's going to be a pure system quarterback, no doubt. I think if he lands in New England, which New England's going to be crazy good if they land him. I think if he goes to Arizona, Arizona will be nice to have someone like him.
I think
if he goes to New Orleans, no. New Orleans will be. Do I see him fitting in the Giants? No. Would I like him at the Giants? Oh, hell yeah. If the Giants get him in the second round, yeah. If he's sitting there, get him and snag him, I'd be happy because with the projections I have, you'd have Jackson at quarterback, Barkley at running back, Ingram at tight end, Sterling Shepard in the slot, and OBJ anchoring your wide receivers. That's a formidable offense that nobody would love to face.
The biggest issue I see with Jackson, and it's the same with all quarterbacks of his type, is that they have a very short shelf life unless very early on in their career they learn to be more pass first, run only if you need to type quarterbacks. Because we saw it with Cam Newton, we saw it with RG3, we've seen it with a plethora of quarterbacks who have come into the league as dual threat guys. And then the first year, they're great. But then as defenses start to catch on, then suddenly that aura to them goes away. And they start losing their mojo. They start losing what makes them good quarterbacks. And they start panicking because they're not able to handle the defenses that these teams are running against them. So I think if you got him in the right system that taught him how to be more of a pass-first quarterback, then he'd be okay. But if you're trying to build on him as a dual threat guy, then it may work for the first year, but it won't work in the long term.
I mean, the thing about Lamar Jackson, though, when he is in a passing style, when he did more dropped back at Louisville, he was actually a little bit better than decent. He was good. So I think you would have more teams go into the system that say, we need to develop you as a pass first, and they are going to try that. It's not going to be entirely like an RG3 where you have a college offense. And even with Cam Newton, his first couple of years, of course, run. Yeah, he had okay passing moments. His very first game, he threw for over 400 yards, but the problem was his accuracy has always been crap. I think with Lamar Jackson, you're going to take at least one step above that. So I think more teams are going to say, hey, we got a little something here that we don't have to tweak as much. Let's look into this.
And the good thing for him in terms of his success in the NFL is that he's not being looked at as one of the top quarterbacks. So he may fall to the late first round, early second round, or even mid-second round, and get picked up by a team who may not need a quarterback right now, but is looking for that quarterback of the future, like a Giants team, like a Patriots, like the Saints, like the Steelers, and he will be able to learn that system, learn the NFL style in a couple of years without being thrown right into the fire.
All right, I got a team that would also be a scary team where he could go sit, learn, and then come in and possibly succeed. What if he goes to the Chargers?
He could learn behind Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
That would be a dangerous team.
They need to build around him, though, because, I mean, except for...
You got Mike Williams. And you got Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Ecular, Gordon, and Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so
wouldn't that put him
I
in kind
forgot about Melvin Gordon. So, yeah, they've
Real-
got a pretty good wide receiver core around him. They need a running back, though.
You just said they have Melvin Gordon.
Oh, wait, Derp.
In regards to him going to San Diego, though, wouldn't that kind of put him in direct not San Diego, now Los Angeles. See, I keep wanting to call them the San Diego Chargers.
I do too.
It will always be San Diego.
In regards to him going to the Chargers, though, wouldn't that put him kind of in direct competition with Cardale Jones, who you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, but Cardale Jones is from Ohio State, and I hate Ohio State.
All right, guys.
Not to.
But I think Cardale Jones is a good prospect. But if it was between Cardale Jones and him, yeah, Cardale, you're gonna be setting some more.
Yeah, because again, Cardale Jones came out too soon.
I agree.
Everybody judged him based upon what? A couple of games at Ohio State? Yeah, they were phenomenal games. But again, after that, he's like, well, this is the best it's going to get for me. I'm going to cut tail and run. And that was a terrible choice. Whereas with Lamar Jackson, he's stuck around at Louisville and it's like, you know what? I got a lot going for me here, but I'm going to try to get what I can here so that way I'm in a better position rather than just me leaving when my stock is the highest.
We will see what happens, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other variables to consider as far as where these teams land. And we'll talk about where these players that we discussed landed when we do our draft follow-up episode next Wednesday night. For now, we're going to move forward here, and we're going to talk about what we want our specific teams to do. Since Jason and Brandon are fans of the same team, I'm going to let them go last so that way they can have kind of a back and forth as far as what they want their team to do. Erik, I'm going to let you go first with what you'd like to see the Jaguars do with this draft, and then I will discuss what I want to see Buffalo do with this draft.
Well, I teased on it a little bit earlier. The one, not even a hole, but kind of the chink in our defense is Paul Puzzlesny retiring. Hell of a career. He does proud these last few years in Jacksonville. He will be dearly missed. But I think we need to at least find some sort of replacement for him. I wouldn't say early on in the draft, but I would make that as something of a maybe day 3 concern. First couple of rounds, offense. We, through a variety of reasons, lost a couple of our best receivers, a tight end. So now it's a matter of who the hell is Blake Bortles going to throw to? We need our first at least 2 rounds trying to shore that up. Maybe even add and tweak some things along the offensive line. We've got one side of the ball figured out. Now we need to figure out the other one. And kind of fast.
All right, I think it's kind of funny that you picked linebacker, Erik, because the Pro Football Weekly guide that I have here, area of least need, linebacker.
Yeah, that's why I said that would be a day 3 concern. 6th, 7th round, do something. It's not the most immediate pressing needs. And I'm like, keep that in the back of your head, but focus on this first.
Just real quick here. Corner is in outstanding shape, but with underrated nickel, Aaron Colvin unrestricted, we'll say linebacker, where the speed and dynamism of Telvin Smith and Miles Jack could be as special as the dual lockdown abilities of Jalen Ramsey and A.J. Boye.
Yeah, completely agree. That's why I say we've got that side of the ball almost entirely figured out. Don't worry about that if there's nobody really there that's impressing you.
Did you know you guys had the number 1 ranked pass defense in the NFL last year?
Yes. That's why. Oh, for the love of God, New England.
Number 1 ranked pass defense, number 2 overall ranked defense.
Exactly. I mean, you saw that firsthand in the wild card round.
I mean, it was only 3 points, but in fairness, Tyrod Taylor was our quarterback. And then we had to go to Nathan Peterman at the end of the game. And everybody knows you should never have to go to Nathan Peterman.
Touche.
Just
Touche.
Speaking of Buffalo, let's go ahead and talk about the Bills draft this year, shall we?
Oh,
Go ahead.
Erik,
yeah.
I'm about to. Erik Wood has retired, our starting center. Richie Incognito has filed his retirement papers, although there is talk going around that LaShawn McCoy is trying to talk him out of it. We have just recently sent one of our better defensive players, Marcel Darius, to Jacksonville last year. And Kyle Williams is not getting any younger despite being the heart and soul of our defense.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive and defensive line is clearly the biggest area of need for Buffalo. That being said, I think we have to find a future of the franchise quarterback this year. This is a stacked quarterback draft, and there isn't another one like it for a couple of years down the road. Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen. There are those who are really high on Mason Rudolph. There are those that are really high on Lamar Jackson. I personally don't see the hype for either of them, but I can understand why some people do. This is the year for Buffalo to pick up that future franchise quarterback. Let A.J. McCarron start this year in Buffalo. Let's see what A.J. can do. But have somebody ready to take over the reins in order to continue implementing Sean McDermott's system. This is a Bills team on the rise, and I would like to keep it that way.
Yeah, I mean Buffalo needs to get a franchise quarterback, and I would go. You also got a nice little running back class this year that you can find some hidden gems there that Buffalo might want to try to sift through and see if they can find someone to maybe take some of the work off McCoy so he doesn't wear down. Because he's no young running back. He's ran a lot and he's got a lot of wear on his tires.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be the plan last year when we signed the two fullbacks that we signed, Mike Tolbert and Patrick DeMarco, and then neither one of them did shit in Buffalo last year.
So no faith in the quarterback that led you to the playoffs for the first time in 18 years?
I think that trading Taylor was a mistake.
Right. I forgot they traded him. Yeah, that is a mistake.
I've said before that I thought that trading Tyrod Taylor was a mistake.
Peterman.
How mad are you going to be if they do start Peterman?
I got 2 words for you, Jason. Davis Webb. Bite me.
No comment on what
hold on. Then I got words for you. Wide left.
I was just gonna go there, but no comment on what
Erik?
my question there, Harry.
Wait, you're gonna have to repeat. Oh, what? As far as what we're gonna do with Peterman start?
Yes.
Boycott. Not watch.
Become the 2017 Giants.
Yeah, really. Erik, you're not allowed to make fun of my team in the Super Bowl until you guys make one.
Oh, rub it in. Just yeah.
All right.
At least
there's only 2 people
to get to the AFC Championship game.
There's only two fans here that can claim they've won Super Bowls.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me just put it this way: when Sean was producing, you guys didn't have as many titles as he did. So
yes.
Yeah, but at least ours was
recently.
In this century,
in this millennium.
Sports Illustrated doesn't have a backlog of VHS tapes from our last Super Bowl.
Not to mention, your Super Bowls were thanks to our old coach. So again, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Erik.
Yeah, the only difference is he decided to come back. Everybody else just retires. So
Well,
at least thank you for helping him along that process.
And you're welcome for letting one of our best coaches come run your organization and get you to the playoffs.
Yes.
That's why I said thanks for actually convincing him to come back.
All right, Tom Coughlin aside here, Giants fans. The floor is yours to debate what you'd like to see your team do this year.
I think we
ahead.
can both agree on who they should take at number 2 overall.
Yes, Barkley.
Yes.
You need a premier running back to
Indeed.
go that off. Yeah.
Instead of what's his name? I forget. I'm drawing a blank. He has a really weird name. Darklaw. There we go.
Yeah, and they signed. He's a restricted. He's a free agent actually, and they signed Jonathan Stewart. I mean,
that's true.
His Walker could be his fullback, but he's not going to be anything.
Yeah.
So we need to get. I look first, and I'm hoping and praying that we take Barkley. Barkley's there at 2, and we take him. If not, we need to go. If Cleveland goes Barkley 1, we need to snag a franchise quarterback to be the heir to Eli.
I know that you don't like this choice, but if that does happen, that Barkley gets taken number 1 overall, I say they go with Rosen.
I say they go Josh Allen.
I'd be okay with that. Or, I mean, this is stretching it a little bit. We talked about this for the second round, but pick up the Oklahoma State quarterback.
Rule?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would. That's what I was going to say. If we can get Barkley at 2 and someone like Rudolph in the second, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Or if we flip that and get a premier quarterback at 2, I mean,
and then a serviceable running back in the second round.
And then because I mean, you're going to look at. I mean, honestly, Penny in the second round would be a great fit in New York. I love Penny.
See, I think you could get him later than the second round, though. I think the second round is a reach for him.
Really, I think a lot of teams are going to go. I think a lot of teams are going to be reaching because they're going to want to try to make that impact play. But
a lot of teams are going to, because look at how many quarterbacks are nearing the end of their careers. So a lot of teams that normally wouldn't be in the market for a quarterback now suddenly are, and they're going to try to get that, that boom pick out of the second and third round.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm happy with either that. The only other position that I'm going to stress, and this is Gettleman's forte, he is a big offensive line guy, and we need offensive line help.
The one other place that I would say, and this is something that they could try to get in third, fourth, fifth round, I think the 2 positions that they should be looking for in the middle rounds are offensive linemen and secondary guys.
Yes, fully agree. And that's all I got on my analysis of the Giants.
All right, that's going to take us to our final segment. Real quick here, I think that if Cleveland takes Saquon Barkley, you guys may want to consider trading the number 2 pick and accumulating more picks for later in the draft.
I could see that.
I would be fine with that. I would be fine with that.
We were talking about it off air. I would potentially see, I'd be perfectly fine, especially if, like you said, if they did decide to take Barkley at number 1, the Giants trading down with your Bills to get both the, I think, what is it, the 14th and the 22nd overall picks?
12 and 22.
12 and 22, yeah.
If there's a trade with Buffalo, it's not going to include both picks.
Well, I think that's the only way the Giants would do it.
The move up to 2, as needy as they are at quarterback, I think that Gettleman could swing a deal.
I think you guys could probably get 12, 54, and 57 out of it, which is a first and 2 seconds.
That could potentially be the case. But I mean, I could definitely see them trying to trade down to get more, like get a double first round pick or get like a first round and a high second round pick.
I 100% see Buffalo attempting to trade up to get Josh Allen. I 100% see Bills are going to try to do that. Whether or not it happens, we will see tomorrow night.
Breaking news. We talk about character issues. Just came across. Geis, LSU running back, story of being asked about if he loves men is falling apart. It has came out that he has gave 3 different accounts of the questioning and creating a fault from grace, and he begins to slip down draft boards due to character issues and not being truthful and honest.
Man, I'm not sold on Darius Geis anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't really sold on him either.
No.
I think he's the second best running back in the draft.
I don't even think he's in the top 5.
Based on landing. Because everything I see him going to is Detroit. And I think in that offense, I think he could be he should be the second. If Detroit's picking, that's the type of running back that Detroit needs. Personally, I think that Jones is a lot better runner, but I think he's going to be the second running back off the board, strictly based on the type of runner he is, and going to Detroit.
I honestly don't even think I don't think he's in the top 5 for running backs in this draft for me. I really don't.
Interesting.
We'll talk more about our running backs and stuff here in a few seconds because we are going to do our top 5 overall players in this draft, and I actually have 2 running backs in mind. But we'll talk more about running backs here in a few moments there. But I don't see it with Darius Geis. And I say this as somebody who's played LSU every year for the last couple of years, just due to the fact that we have kind of the rivalry game against them every season.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really stand out as anything special to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen, we have officially reached the end of the show, and that means our top 5 overall players in this draft. Do you guys want to do them in order or in no particular order? Because it really doesn't matter to me.
I'm just doing them in no particular order.
Yeah, I'm doing them in no particular order.
Same. No real big order.
All right. Well, I have a particular order for only one, and that is my number 1 overall player in this draft because I don't think there is any question in my mind that the number 1 overall player in this draft is Saquon Barkley.
I would have to agree with that.
I had Barkley, but I figured everybody else would go him, so I picked outside of Barkley.
See, this right here we could all agree on just because it's a top 5 overall situation.
Yeah, but I think that there's people in there that, you know, Barkley, I'm pretty sure that may be, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Erik, but I'm pretty sure that was a consensus best player available in this draft. So I kind of tailored mine out of, you know, the given.
Well, there are a couple of players ranked higher than Barkley by Pro Football Weekly.
Well, Pro Football Weekly's wrong.
That means there's that.
Because, I mean, honestly, based just upon sheer not even just what he did, but his potential of what he can do and how he can really anchor down organizations, yeah, I have to go Barkley as the best overall.
Okay. So you just wanted your other 4 here?
I was going to say, yeah, why don't we go ahead and go around and do all 5 of them individually here. I'll go first, since I've gone last more or less the entire time on this show here. Saquon Barkley. Much though I hate to say it, Mika Fitzpatrick out of Alabama, the safety. That is a shutdown safety. That is a dude who reminds me a lot of Patrick Peterson, honestly.
I'm very high on him.
So I'm gonna go with Saquon Barkley Mika Fitzpatrick. Taven Bryan, the defensive tackle out of Florida. A lot of people are saying that even though he's probably going to go late first round, that he's one of the better players in this draft and an immediate starter once he gets into the NFL.
I think he's gonna fall strictly based on team needs, not talent.
Billy Price, center, Ohio State. I would love to see Buffalo go after Price with the 22nd pick. Give us a center that could replace Erik Wood in our starting lineup. Last year when Buffalo still had Cordy Glenn, we drafted a left tackle in the second round. Late second round, named Dion Dawkins out of Temple. And he ended up sliding right in for Glenn when Glenn got injured and is now penciled in to be our starting guard for Buffalo. I would love to see us do the same thing this year and pick up Billy Price to replace Erik Wood going forward. My fifth one's going to be a little bit of a surprise here just because he's not somebody that's going to get a lot of publicity, but somebody who I think is going to do very well in the NFL, and that is Daniel Carlson, kicker out of Auburn. And the reason I say that is because of longevity here. Carlson has a massive leg. The only problem is that he is a little inconsistent, which I think significantly hurts his draft stock.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy, in my opinion, with talent on the level of Sebastian Janikowski when Janikowski came out.
Wow.
And let's not forget that when Janikowski came out, I think Oakland took him in the third round.
Yeah.
Carlson has
third.
It was either third or fourth. Carlson has that level of talent. So I'm going to say Saquon Barkley, Billy Price, Taven Bryan, Mika Fitzpatrick, and Daniel Carlson are my top five.
I can agree with those.
Jason, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm just going to go over mine real quick because we've discussed two of mine already, and in no particular order, I'm going to go running back out of San Diego State. I think he has sneaky sleeper Hunt comparison probabilities. I'm going to go Chubb out of NC State. I think he's a game changer on any defense.
Interesting that you say Bradley Chubb. He is the number one ranked player by Pro Football Weekly.
I think that he's a game changer, but I think he might have the hype, and it will depend on where he lands, how his career goes.
I agree.
The next two quarterbacks. We talked about Jackson earlier, and I think Josh Allen's the number one quarterback personally in the draft. And to round out my top five is my number one wide receiver of this group, and that's DJ Moore out of Maryland.
That's an interesting selection to me because he's all the way down at 12th in PFW.
Well, I think he's sneaky. I'm looking at, of course, all these depend on landing spots. You could have the greatest quarterback ever and fail if he's in the wrong spot. So.
All right, Brandon, you're up.
Okay. Like we talked about Barkley, my second pick, my quarterback that I've got is Josh Rosen. I talked highly of him earlier. I have Denzel Ward coming out of Ohio State, cornerback. I think he'll be a solid secondary guy in this draft. Roquan Smith out of Georgia, outside linebacker. I think he has the potential to be, a top both patch rusher and coverage guy in the league. And then you mentioned him earlier. My fifth guy is Minka Fitzpatrick out of LSU.
Alabama.
Oh, right, Alabama.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Alabama.
Right.
Erik, that leaves you for your top 5. Saquon, who are the other 4?
A couple of quarterbacks. Even though he said he don't play school, I'm high on Josh Rosen. I'm also high on, and Ginger Damas and I have the hive mind, Lamar Jackson. Because, again, give him time, let him develop. And he also kind of read my mind with Bradley Chubb. I was extremely thankful that Miami didn't have to deal with him really all that much, but oh dear Lord. He had comparisons to Mario Williams, and with someone like that, put him on pretty much any position on the deep line, he'll be a beast. But to counter that, this one hurts because of a very deep-seated rivalry. Although I admit the past couple of years he's been on some kind of crap teams for them. Quentin Nelson out of Notre Dame. Again, another one of those guys, quiet, not talked about because he was a guard, but try getting around him to get to a quarterback, and you see what happens.
I was considering putting him up there in mine.
I like him.
I didn't want to pick it. I didn't want to pick him because he wore the wrong color helmet, but I still have mad respect for him, all things considered.
Those are definitely the hardest guys to really evaluate and talk about on any sort of draft or football, just in general, show or any sort of analysis of football is the offensive line, because you really don't have any concrete tangible evidence for them.
The only time you're really talking about them is when a defensive player has a performance like 4 or 5 sacks in a game, and then you know who the offensive lineman was that allowed that big thing to happen. Otherwise, the best offensive linemen are known by the fact that you don't know their name.
Mm-hmm. Or the only reason you know them is because they make the Pro Bowl.
Or they have a big block to spring somebody during a game and the announcers put it over there. But to a podcast such as ours, you really don't hear a whole lot in regards to linemen, just for that very fact that we're not looking at the X's and O's. We're more looking at the breakout factors and the playmakers, the superstars of football, as it were.
Yep.
The quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, the linebackers, the corners, and the safeties.
And D-line you get because of sacks.
Hey, guys, I got a question for you. What do you say we meet back here next Wednesday night and do this all again?
Let's do it.
Sounds good.
You see what teams that we can ridicule and laugh at for doing it wrong.
Oh, there will be a few.
I hope to laugh hysterically at Cleveland for screwing up the draft, but honestly, with the GM that they have in place now, I don't know that we're going to.
We still will.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think, and I've said this from the start, and I stand by it, even though me and Jason disagree on this, it would be in Cleveland's best interest to take Saquon Barkley number 1. Especially if they don't trade out of the 4. Because if they don't trade out of the 4, they could still get one of the franchise quarterbacks in that 4 spot.
I'll agree with that. I wouldn't like it, because then that would mean the Giants wouldn't get Barkley, but, I do agree with your concept.
Do we have anything else to add before we get out of here tonight?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
No, I think we just about set it up for now. Now it's up to the war rooms.
Well, you know what else we can talk about real quick here, Erik, is the fact that you guys have a video chat scheduled for the first round tomorrow night, don't you?
Well, of course we do. Once the pomp and pageantry that is what I hope for timing's sake to be a somewhat expedited round 1 Sean, our faithful head honcho that is at the W2M Network, myself, Jason, I believe you're on board.
As far as I know, I didn't get any confirmation, but yeah, I can make it in.
Most excellent. So yeah, you get to see our ugly mugs. Yeah, you don't too often.
I just sent a message pitching to Sean, letting him know that depending on start time and when I get home from watching the draft at my friends, I might be available for analysis as well.
As could I.
So it could be a situation of the kickoff invades football to the max.
That would be great.
God.
Let's do it.
and my entire video stream will be an empty chair.
On that note, if you are a fan of anything in relation to the worlds of football, soccer, entertainment, sports, video games, wrestling, and so much more, make sure you check us out online at W2Mnet.com. In addition, you can listen to the Kickoff and so many other of the Wrestling to the Max W2M Network podcasts by listening on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, CastBox. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but there are so many. And coming soon to Spotify as well will be the W2M Network family of podcasts.
Wait,
Brandon?
what?
You can listen to me and Harry rabble against each other all the time every Tuesday.
Yeah, we're coming to Spotify, Erik.
If only you could see the smile on my face. Because you know what should be happening if everything goes well over the next week?
What that?
Do I want to know?
Well, I'm going to have certain equipment. And when I have certain equipment that I can take advantage of, I flirted the idea of the Point of Viewer Season 2 catch-up Megatacular.
Oh, God.
Beware, Spotify. Beware.
And also, I'm going to throw this out. Me and another person on this podcast has an upcoming show debuting here on the W2M Network.
Yes, we do.
And that will be probably toward the end of the month, beginning of next month. We're debuting Fantasy Football to the Max.
Probably do it like
two Giants fans.
in a cut. Maybe do it like the Wednesday after next, since we won't be doing the kickoff. That'll be our draft review for fantasy.
Well,
That's perfectly fine.
It's actually your returning Fantasy Football to the Max to the W2M Network.
No. Ginger Damas is bringing it back full force. No empty chairs. No BS. I'm coming down from the mountain, bestowing knowledge on my brethren. So be ready.
Myself, Brandon Biskobing, and Liz Puglisi have the SmackDown Live and 205 Live reviews. Brandon does NXT and Monday Night Raw as well. His co-host to be determined on a consistent basis for those. I think I might be co-hosting NXT with you tomorrow, depending on what time we can record it.
Yeah, because we'll have to watch the draft as well.
If we're going to do NXT, we're going to have to do it in the afternoon.
Okay, that actually works for me. Just message me once we're done with this.
Will do. So, for Ginger Damas, Jason Teasley, the leader of the Viewer Naughty, Erik Watkins, Brandon Biskobing, I'm Harry Broadhurst. You have listened to the 2018 NFL Draft Preview episode of The Kickoff here on the W2M Network, available online at W2Mnet.com. Great to be back, everybody. We'll talk to you next week with our review of the draft.